Hi folks, welcome back to Guitars in the Attic. Martin Meets Guitars. Slightly different this week. It's not exactly Martin Meets Guitars, it's actually Martin Meets Pedalboard. So we've had quite a few comments, really nice comments actually, about the pedal board, the setup, what pedals are used. Lots of comments about the chorus pedal. So hence we thought we'd do a wee pedal board video. So here it is. This is my pedal board. I suppose I'll give you a quick wee bit of history. It's had quite a few variations of it and versions through the years. I was always a Mesa Boogie player, always played Mesa Boogies, got my first Mesa Boogie when I was about 12. It was a Studio 22 Plus. It was brilliant, and I always used to put some pedals in front of that, just old school sort of tube screamers and delay pedals and chorus pedals before I made a board up, bits and bobs. Gigged that right through till I was about 16, then upgraded to Mark III. So again, staying with Boogie is the main sort of thing. And when I was touring in around about 2000, I was lucky enough to work with Sophie Ellis-Bextor for about 3 years. Back in the day when Murder on the Dance Floor came out and stuff like that, and it was the first time round with originals. I used to use a tri-axis setup, which was a Boogie stereo rig, 290, tri-axis and Teleflex. I'd always use a separate compressor pedal for my clean sounds. It was super stereo, it was super LA, it sounded fantastic. I never ever used a gig amp, so I always used to use my amp in the studio. That was the only time I'd have it. And then I came off that gig and I did a few other bits and bobs, and then I joined Mika, and back in like 2004. His album was very sort of, it was done in LA, it was done by Greg Wells, and the guitar player was Lyle Workman, and a few other fantastic players. And I was always an advocate for, if I started playing with a new artist, I'd make sure I get the right sound, I'd use the guitar the session player used on the album, and maybe even going into details and get in touch with the producer and ask what amps they used. Now my stereo rig, when I was using it on the first tour with Mika, it sounded good, but there was something missing from it, and it was an earthiness. So I decided, let's get my Lone Star out and see if I can use that. It kind of hung a problem because I was never used to using pedals for about at least 15 years of gigging. Since I was a kid, I had my pedal board, but when I started doing it more professionally, I went on to using rack systems. So the idea of tap dancing really worried me, and this gets us round to this sort of first controller unit in the amp. So when I put the amp in and plugged it in and just played the distortion sound, everything came to life. All the Grace Kelly sort of sounds and all the big sounds that was used on that album suddenly came to life, and I went, that's how I need to go. And then I went to a Birmingham music fair pretty much nearly that month, and it was way back in 2000, and I'll get it right, be about 2005 or 6, round about that era, maybe 2007. And I was walking out the Birmingham Music Fair because I'd just gone to see the guys at Boogie, I'd gone to see the guys at Rota Sound and say thank you for their endorsements and all that sort of thing. And as I was walking out, I spotted Dan from Gig Rig. And Dan had his original Pro 14 unit on the desk and loads of pedals and loads of 2 amps set up. And it was the one thing that caught my eye as I walked out. It was the only thing at the show that I went, wow, that's really cool. And I went past him and I said, I've got a bit of a dilemma. I'm working with such and such. He said, oh, that's brand new, brilliant. And he said, what are you looking for? And I says, well, I want something that I don't have to tap dance and that will change the channels in my amp. And then Dan said, right, I'll sort you out a rig. And then this is the final piece of kit that I got to that I use, but he's got other new ones at the moment, but this is the main thing in my board that controls everything, and it's the Gig Rig G2. So that's the big thing for me, is this unit. This unit is priceless. It's as priceless as all the pedals that I have, and also it's MIDI, so it can change the collider without having to faff around and tap dance and all that sort of stuff. And I've tried to explain this controller to a lot of people and a lot of guitar players. It doesn't make a sound. There's no effects in it, nothing, but it's absolutely a priceless piece of kit. And as we move forward, you'll kind of understand why, really. Anyway, yeah, moving on. So I have my tuner pedal, which is my TC Electronics, so I'll hit that first. Basic tuner pedal, they do what they do, they tune you up and then you still get it wrong, you know what I mean? So it don't really matter. So the first pedal I hit with my Strat is my compressor pedal. And there's a few comments about that. I always like a compressor on a Strat. I'll have 2 sets of banks. I'll have a bank for my Pauls or my humbucking guitars where it doesn't have the compressor on. But if I'm using my Strat, it'll always have the compressor. And I like to set the compressor up where I get the same level as if it was clean. So if I take the compressor out, like, and then if I put it in. But it just holds on to everything. I've always loved compression on, especially Strats. Without it, it's as loud, but what happens with it is the compressor will pull all your notes and basically even them all out and make them nice and rounded together. Whereas when you've got the compressor off, things will slightly poke out at different levels, and that's what it does. It just cleans everything up.
What specific compressor is it?
I'd always used a Dodd milk box. Now, and I didn't know that they were really trendy back in the day, a Dodd milk box. But then when I started using the amp, I went back to my trusty Boss CS3, and everybody uses them. Do you know, if you look in, a lot of the country boys in Nashville still use them. And it was Dan that said to me, he says, if you tried this Dinosauro, it's from a friend of mine. I don't know if they're making them anymore or he's still in production. I'm just not sure. And he put it in and he put it next to my Boss pedal, and I just went, oh wow. I couldn't believe how transparent it was. When you put this thing in, it's just, it's liquid, it's just brilliant. It's like... But I like it because when you play softly with it, you know what I mean? It doesn't choke like some compressors do. This. It's a beautiful compressor, absolutely beautiful. Yeah, so that's the compressor pedal. I love it, absolutely love it. I'd usually, after that point, maybe add in some reverb on a clean sound, which you've probably heard a lot of. That's just a standard, that's the collider. I've only just moved to the collider from the Hall of Reverb, the Hall of Fame, sorry. I'm just getting used to this collider. It's got the parameters on it are a little bit more sensitive. When you move them, you seem to get a lot of something, and it takes a bit of getting used to. But it's a lovely pedal. Right, let's move to the chorus, because there's been tons of people asking me about it. My chorus pedal is a vintage 80s Dimension C Boss pedal. It's the basic one with the 4 buttons, and I have it on my number 2 setting, but I've got to tell you, any setting on that pedal sounds incredible. That's setting 2, that's setting 1. Which has got a little bit less of the sort of regency, I think they call it on a flanger, don't know. The second one's just a lovely pedal. And then button 3 is nice, button 4. Give it more of a vibrato to it. But I really love button 2, that's my favourite. Great, absolutely love that pedal. So that's my Dimension C. It's stereo. I ain't got it in stereo, I just got it in basic mono. I don't run stereo. I love it. Now this is a nice pedal. You're gonna like this one. When you get some of the pictures of my original board will have a super duper massive electric mistress. And it's huge, it's a huge pedal. But it's by far one of the best flangers you can get, the big silver box one. And I wanted something nice and compact like this for doing sort of smaller gigs and fly gigs and bits and bobs. And a friend of mine, he said to me, have you tried and I don't know if I'm embarrassed to say it because it's only like a £20 pill, the Moore Electric Lady. He says, have you tried the Moore Electric Lady as a substitute for your electric mistress? And I went, nah. He says, go and try it, mate. He says, you can have it, it's only 20 quid, have it, put it in your board. I have to tell you, it's amazing. That's a 20 quid pedal. I mean, what more do you want out of a mistress?
I love about that pedal so much is that how much of it you use. You've got it on like full whack.
Oh yeah, dude, if you're gonna have a pedal, that's my take on it. If you're gonna have a pedal, what's the point of it subtle? Turn it up, man, let's hear it, you know what I'm saying? So this is my tremolo. I've gone through a few tremolos, and I have to say, on my boards, and I've lost tremolo pedals. I used to have the little green boast one. It was phenomenal. I had an endorsement with these guys, and they sent me a load of pedals, and it's a lovely pedal. A lot of depth to that pedal, it's really warming. Great sound. But it also does the squareness, I forget what they call it, so if you do that with it. Womp, womp, womp. And then you can blend the two. Yeah, beautiful, beautiful pedal.
Yeah, that sounds great.
Yeah, it's a great sound. Just beautiful, absolutely beautiful sound. So that's my tremolo pedal. That's me pretty much gone through all the sort of clean sounds. Sometimes I might add stuff like, yeah, I might do that type of thing. That's the clean sounds. That's the sort of vibes I would use. I had to sort of incorporate some bits and bobs with the distortion sounds because what I was struggling with, the first incarnation of my board when I got Dan to do it, I ran my IntelliFX through the back, which gave me my delays and reverb, so I never had it here. But it was very difficult to fly with that rig, so I had to make a fly board. And what I ended up doing was getting the front of the amp driven by a distortion pedal and having the delay, so everything was coming here into a clean channel. But previously, I used to have my boogie distortion, which is this. I love. Lone Stars are phenomenal amps. They're absolutely phenomenal. They've got a fantastic distortion sound, but what it won't do is it won't take you full-on driven distortion away. That's better. So what I used to do from a distortion is I'd put at the front of it a full drive, but then the delays would be going through the send and return. When I couldn't use that anymore, I had to come up with a pedal that would drive the clean channel as much as what the full drive did on distortion. And I shopped around, and I was really into Lukather anyway, and I think he's quite groundbreaking with some of the gear that he's had in the past with Bob Bradshaw, and he was using the radial tone bone tri-mode. So I got one and I gave it a try and it was instant, but what I did do with it is I took the valve out, which was a groove tube, and I shoved a boogie valve in it. So the minute I put a boogie valve in it, it just came to life and it sounded like a boogie. So this is the boogie. Radial. But this is what the radial gives you. So the radial gives you... Whereas the amp gives you... That's as much as you get from the amp. The radial. It's a great pedal, but I've got it mapped in such a way that you can switch between them and go, is that the amp? Is that the pedal? Is that the amp? Is that the pedal? I don't know. And then the other thing you can do with the gig rig thing, which is great, I can put some post gain in there, which makes it a wee bit louder if I want to for a solo thing, if I wanted to do that. And then after that, I just keep on adding effects on afterwards. And my distortion sounds, as you've maybe heard with the videos, are always quite plain. I don't tend to have a great deal of stuff on it. My radio with the reverb. But that radial pedal, it cleans up beautifully. I mean, that's as pure as it gets, isn't it, Cal? It's like... That's huge sound for me. But then when you get it to clean up, it's not as if you're getting a really quiet, clean sound. There's still quite a lot of volume there. And it's so close to the amp. That's the amp. That's the radio. That's as close as you get. If the boys at the radio want to get in touch with me, that's the hack. The hack is take the groove tube out and put a boogie tube in there, and it suddenly is on steroids, the thing. I adore it. So that's that with a wee bit of reverb, and then I might chuck in, that's the one with the reverb and delay. And that's it. You know, if I was ever changing guitars, I'd just go straight onto the pole. It's like, this is already a long video talking about pedal boards. But if I was going onto the pole with the same principle, I'd have a batch of presets, but I'd literally just take the compressor out because it just doesn't need it. Again, moving on to the sort of effects side of it. And then the distortion sounds would be exactly the same. I wouldn't change anything, just as they are. It's the amp. That pedal's on steroids, I have to say, it's unbelievable. And then, again, with some reverb. I kind of feel as if I've been on steroids today. I think I've had a bit too much coffee. I'm like this. I'm that excited about showing my pedal board. But that's my board, you know, I love it. I absolutely love it. It's great, it's simplistic, driven by Dan at Gig Rig with his G2. And yeah, I hope you like it, guys. Any comments, any feedback, or anything else you want to hear about, let me know and we'll try and revisit it. I will revisit it straight away, or I'll give you some explanations in the comments below. If I can give you any advice on setting up pedal boards and bits and bobs like that, let me know. I'll see what I can do for you. But yeah, click and subscribe because we're getting more subscribers all the time. Thanks ever so much, guys. Lots of love. Take care. See ya.